On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1990. We're going to be having a listen to Sinéad O'Connor, and she's going to be performing Nothing Compares to You. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. So thank you guys for all of the requests for this particular video tonight following the sad news that Sinéad O'Connor passed away recently. We're going to be having a look at the studio release of this cover of Prince's original song, and it's probably one of her biggest hits, if not the biggest hit that everybody knows, and the video that accompanies it as well. We're going to be jumping into the vocal, and I have isolated the vocal so we can have a bit of a deep dive into that, but also looking at the instrumentation and the chord changes that have been applied that actually didn't exist in Prince's original. So to give you fair warning, I am going to be jumping into this quite a lot. So there's going to be a link to the original video in the description below. I'll also put a link to Prince's original, so you can have a listen to that as well if you want to. But just talking about the video, we're going to be looking at a still image here because we're focusing on the musical aspects, but being 1990 when it was released, MTV was huge and music videos were becoming such a huge part of the music industry as they are now, but it all started with MTV. And this particular video is so engaging and so emotionally impactful that if you haven't seen it, then I suggest you do watch the video as well. But we're just focusing on the music, hence the still image, and it also helps to rule out any copyright blocks and all that kind of stuff. But let's jump into it.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. I can see whomever I choose. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing, I said nothing can take away this blues.
So I'm going to jump in here because when you listen to this version of the song, it is remarkably different to that of the Prince original. And when we're looking on the screen of the pitch monitoring software, you can hear that vulnerability that Sinéad O'Connor had in her voice, which is just so unique because we've done so many vocal analysis videos where we look through the vocal and we always generally see an even vibrato applied to the voice. But this is something that Sinéad didn't have, and she never really had this. It was just her own voice, and this is where pitch and pitch accuracy is key. Being able to hit notes dead on, and as you look through you'll be able to see that she is dead on with her pitch, like here, C4 for example, just spot on. But as we go back, I am going to be taking out the backing so we can hear her voice now isolated.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days.
Just listen to that 50 days. It's not even like that. It's a frequency of vibrato. It's kind of in there, but it's not even. It's just like a wobble, almost like, yeah, an emotional wobble of the voice, But you can see how it actually ascends. So we started on the G4, and we're not just holding a note here applying vibrato. And this is the other thing, that it is so much to do with individual expression and how we understand the voice and the emotion attached to it, that if she went 15 days, if she did that, it now isn't the same thing. It's sounding too much like singing rather than the telling of the story, but it's such a unique voice.
Since you took your love away, I go out every night and sleep all day.
And then we had it exactly the same thing right at the end of the line there.
Since you took your love away, since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want.
And I'm just going to take that back because...
since you've been gone,
yeah, it sounds like on there, I mean, it's amazing. When you isolate the vocal, you get so much detail that you can hear, but it sounds like something either bumped into the mic stand, if they were indeed using a mic stand, just on that phrase.
Since you've been gone.
Yeah, it's kind of right at the beginning there. You'll hear a boom, that kind of sound. So it hasn't been EQ'd out, and obviously this was a vocal take that they didn't want to change.
I can do whatever I want.
And that little cry that she had to her voice where she would just let it flip up, and you just hear it right at the end of the phrase. Actually, there's delay as well that you can hear on the voice. You've got reverb, delay, and let me just let it play through.
I could see whomever I choose.
You'll notice this kind of thing all the time with Sinead's voice, just being slightly sharp, especially in this song. And I'm going to point out later why that's so important, but by being sharp and being not perfect, again, it's that vulnerability, but it makes the note stand out ever so slightly more than it normally would do. And this is the difference between recording in 1990 and recording now. This would be pitch corrected so that it'll be pulled down to the G4 so that it's right over the note, but then you would lose the expression.
I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant.
So now at this point, we've got the double track going on. So Sinead has sung the vocal line and then sung it again. But, I mean, she's nailed it both times. And the thing too, take into consideration when you're thinking about her singing two vocal lines separately, is her expression, her dynamic control throughout the performance. Because when she goes to a really breathy sound, she's sung that twice. So she's got to perfectly mirror what she's already done from a dynamic perspective. So if she didn't go to a breathy sound and went to a more closed sound, or at least getting her vocal cords to close more, not letting as much air through them, that would sound weird because you'd have two voices that are obviously two separate takes then stuck together. So you want to have two takes that are identical, and it's amazing to listen through. Because now, from now on, it's going to be a double-tracked vocal for the rest of the song.
But nothing, I said nothing can take away this blues. 'Cause nothing compares.
Again, that G4 there, being sharp, it just adds something. It adds some colour to it and some extra expression that wouldn't be there if she wasn't sharp.
Nothing compares to you.
And then we have it again, this G4 that you'll see for the whole song. And I think it's something that you just get used to the feeling of that note rather than knowing it's slightly sharp of the G4. If you don't know anything about music or singing, you'll feel something about that note that it sounds a bit angsty because it's not quite on pitch. So I've just got the guitar out to demonstrate how different this is to the original by Prince because of not only the vocals, but the way that the chords have been changed so that the vocal can sound a little bit more minor, a little bit more, angsty, and going to more of a depressed place, rather than in the original. Prince almost had this really major sound to it, which made it like a positive reflection of Nothing Compares to You in a positive way. And it's just the way that we interpret sound and the different keys of sounding happy and sad, going from major to minor. So yeah, Sinead just took this song, did something totally different with it. And we're in F here. It's not going to be an instructional video, as I always say. Let me play it through and I'll point out where that original, which you can check out in the description below, click on that link, but I'll point out where it's different.
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away.
So, in that gap there, on the original, there's a little run that comes in, which actually the whole band play, and so those are the notes that are played on that original by Prince. Now, when we analyse those notes, those are just notes from the major scale, so they're happy. So it's really reinforcing that. And even listening to them, it sounds quite, uplifting and not the place where this version is coming from. But anyway, when we get into the chords, the F, and then we've got a C over an E, into a D minor, maybe an F again, back to C, back to F. So those are the chords of the verse. Now, where things really change is when we get into the chorus. I'm just going to take it forward a little bit here.
I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing, I said nothing can take away this blues.
There, and again, we've got that G4 that's slightly sharp vocally, but when we're going into that, actually, okay, we've gone over to the A7th. So this is another change that we have for the G4. Na, na, na. So now this isn't in the original. So it's setting us up in this pre-chorus to give us something slightly different and slightly kind of unnerving. We know that something is about to change.
'Cause nothing compares to you.
Okay, so we've got this. So we'll just E flat, B flat, C. Here we go. Right. So this is the other huge change that we have. And obviously the Prince original's in a different key. So what I'm doing is just playing the equivalent in this key so that we have that reference. We've got this, which is all the same now to you. And that's where to you. She pushes it slightly sharp. And that's just what, I don't know, makes it just her being ever so slightly sharp. But anyway, going down to the C. Now, how this is different is, on the original we go, nothing compares to you. So you hear the massive difference between those two chords going to you, because now we've resolved. We start on the F. So when I say resolved, we've gone back to where we started in the verse. So it's the end of the sentence. It's like we're back home. When we're breaking the melody down into notes on the Prince original, we've got... So, you know, it's just major scale notes, quite uplifting. But Sinead O'Connor's version... And that's the killer there. Going back down to then the G from, you know, our C chord. And this is the point that by throwing in that semitone above the G, I mean that note shouldn't be there. If you're playing a C chord, it doesn't go. So you have to spend a minimal amount of time on it before you then go to a note that then's relevant to the chord that you're playing underneath. And this is what makes it stick out, especially when that final note is then ever so slightly sharp. You're getting just a huge dose of expression and musicality in there that's taking you to a more minor place. It's making you think about things a little bit more because it's got a note in there that shouldn't be in there. I don't want to get too technical with it, but so that people can understand what I'm talking about, if Prince had a C in that original, those are the notes that you would hear from the major scale. But we know in Sinead's version, we've got this note in here. So where does that come in? If we play the C minor scale, there's our note. So she's singing a note from the minor scale over the top of the major chord. So this is why it shouldn't really be in there. And not only should it not be in there, but it's from the minor scale, so it's going to put you into that uneasy place. But we'll jump back into it and listen to the isolated vocal.
Nothing compares to you.
And I mean, it is so subtle when she does throw that no. She actually no. It has a little, you know, slide up to that minor, which is the A flat, by the way. On the screen, it'll say G sharp 4, and you can just see this little slide up here. But yeah, that G sharp 4 is the same as an A flat.
It's been so lonely without you here.
And listen to the way that she's going flat of the G sharp 4. Listen again.
It's been so lonely without you.
And actually the G sharp 4, so lonely. She's got that rather than. So again, that's going to be the G sharp. And the major would be the A. So going na 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 na. That's the note that's actually hit in the original, obviously different keys. But if it were in this key, Prince went up always to the major. So this is why it gives you that uplifting sound. And we can see here that Sinead's voice is a semitone lower. So she's literally hitting a different melody. And when we're listening to this, try and take in that Sinead has sung this song twice, and all of the breathiness, all of the emotion, she's done it exactly the same way twice.
Nothing can stop these lonely tears from falling.
And listen to that, the G sharp 4, she went to it 3 times in a row. So I mean, it totally changes the mood of the whole song.
Tell me, baby.
4 times.
Where did I go wrong?
5 times. So we can see on the pitch monitoring software, the G sharp 4, G sharp 4, G sharp 4, G sharp 4. She's just constantly pushing it to that place. Which, you know, when we take into consideration the verse chords are exactly the same as they were on the original. So all of this is just literally the melody pushing you into this place. And then when we get over to that A7th, I mean, yeah, that A7th chord is huge.
I could put my arms around every boy I see.
When you're looking out for it, you then notice this G sharp 4, the A flat 4, all the time.
They only remind me of you.
And this is where now we have a vocal in place rather than the na 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 na. And on the original, as you could hear, I mean, when I played through the notes before, there are more notes, so you're getting more major scale, which is pushing it more to that place. Whereas here, we're not going na 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 na, and it's that na na na. It's that part. I mean, that's just literally the end of the major scale that we're running down, going. You know, literally taking every note of the major scale going down. So you can't get any more rooted in the major scale than those notes. Taking out those notes, it's leaving a lot more to interpretation of the listener. And when you're given the clue and the general direction by Sinead's vocal melody, that's why it can go to that minor place, because you're not being told about this major key all the time.
I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what he told me? You said, girl, you better try to have fun no matter what you do. But he's a fool.
And she did hit the A4 there just once. And again, listen to the way that she's delivering this. Just is doing it perfectly twice.
I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what he told me? You said, girl, you better try to have fun no matter what you do.
It's interesting, actually, that the A4 is, part of the major scale. It's going to make it sound different. But the only time she's hitting those notes are when she's relaying in the song what the doctor's saying about having fun. So you've got literally what's being said being reflected in the notes of the scale that she's singing.
I went to the doctor and guess what he told me? Guess what he told me?
So the G sharp 4 there is consistent because she's still telling this story.
You said, girl, you better try to...
And then he said, girl, you better try. And then she's pushing more up towards that place.
Have fun no matter.
And you can see that here on the pitch monitoring software, the A4, and then here, and then here. It's now going higher than the G sharp 4. So that's the note that we're now taking in.
What you do? But he's a fool, 'cause nothing compares. Nothing compares to you.
And again, little change of vocal melody there, throwing that note up high. And again, that's something that wasn't on the original, so a little change in melody
But
there.
he's a fool, 'cause nothing compares. Nothing compares to you.
I mean, it's so much about expression, this song.
I know that living with you, baby, was sometimes hard.
Listen to the way that she's leaning into that first part and replicating it perfectly with that second take.
I know that living with you, baby, was sometimes hard.
And then sometimes hard, putting so much air in the sound, but actually putting audible air in the sound. So, even more so than I was doing it there, she's still kind of getting a bit of, na 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 that kind of thing. There's a little bit of compression in there, so you can imagine her getting closer to the mic when she's doing that, but still pushing the air through her vocal cords rather than letting it go and flow. There's a little bit of resistance to the air coming through.
Living with you, baby, was sometimes hard.
Like that. You know, it's that exhalation. I mean, it's so expressive.
But I'm willing to give it another try. Nothing compares. Nothing compares to you. Nothing compares. Nothing compares to you. Nothing compares. Nothing compares to you.
And there we have it. It's great to listen to the isolated vocal because it puts it in a totally different place. Vocally, you can hear what she's doing with her voice, but also when she's singing this, and actually throughout her whole career, she wasn't one of those singers that was really concentrating on technique and, you know, breath support and vibrato and all these different things, which you'll get in lots of other styles of music where they are really important. But for this kind of song, her voice is exactly what the song needed, but more importantly than that, the song has been changed to just suit her voice even more. Yeah, I'm sure that she would have done a great version keeping all of the original chords, but changing just a couple of chords makes a world of difference. But I know that this video has been a bit more of a deeper one, but I think part of the reason for that is that we've never looked at Sinead O'Connor's voice at all. I was going to say in any kind of detail, but at all. So I wanted to dive into it a bit just to point out how artistically she was doing something totally different with this song, but you can say that about her whole career, that she was just one of those unique artists that had obviously strong points of view on lots of different topics, but did a lot in the world for a hell of a lot of other people. Just a huge hit, fantastically delivered vocal in the studio as well, just nailing those 2 takes, the multi-track takes that she would have been doing to get that double track sound. So yes, very sad news to hear that she's passed away, and you know, still at a relatively young age. I think it was 56 that she was. So yes, thank you guys for requesting this video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll catch you guys at the next one.